Welcome to the Main Street Minute with equestrian marketing expert India Wilkinson. This is the destination for all things equestrian, from horse sales, breeding, horse health, and a look into the intricacies of the horse business world. Join India as she dives in with industry leaders to discuss the challenging and rewarding lifestyle of being in the equestrian world. And get ready for the Main Street Minute.
Hi there, this is India Wilkinson with the Main Street Minute. And today we are talking to somebody. I am so excited about this episode. I have Courtney Lucas with us today, who is, we were just talking about it, her title is all over the place. Technically, she is a working student for Mary Beth Davis with Triple Creek Eventing, who is a 5-star rider. Courtney is just everything else, though, on top of that. Rider, barn manager, show manager, everything extraordinaire. So, Courtney, what I would like to talk about today is what goes on behind the scenes of developing and caring for a 5-star horse, and kind of what your life looks like. I think it's so fascinating. I love the behind the scenes look. So really appreciate you being here today. And we just want to start with your background, how you came to be at Triple Creek Eventing.
So I've sort of always been that typical horse crazy girl from a young age. My grandparents had horses and sort of my aunt. And so like on the weekends, we'd always go over there and I'd spend so much time with their horses. And my grandma is the one who actually signed me up for my first riding lesson. And from that, I was just totally hooked. I was always the kid. I was like, when can I ride? When can I ride? I'll ride in the 30-degree weather. I'll ride when it's 100 degrees. So after my first lesson, I was hooked. So I rode all the way through college, and my senior year of college, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do after I got my bachelor's degree. I'd always thought I wanted to do vet school, but I wasn't sure if I was ready. So I was just sort of in an in-between. And one of my best friends at the barn that I grew up riding at, she was actually in the process of looking to be a working student for somebody. And she had contacted Courtney Carson, who worked for Doug and Jessica Payne at the time. And she told my best friend about the working student position that Mary Beth had available. And by the time she told her about it, she'd already found a job actually where we live, which is Michigan. So my best friend told Mary Beth about me. So I came down and tried it for a few days. And by the time I got home, I contacted Mary Beth and I was like, I want the job. And it sort of all just went from there.
So you were in Michigan, and just so everybody knows, Mary Beth, now you're located in Mansfield, Georgia. So that was a big move. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started with Mary Beth, and just so our listeners know, I know Mary Beth very well. I evented with her for 15 years and introduced her to my cousin. So now they're married. So Mary Beth is part of our family. So there's definitely some personal connections with this. So, and I adore you, Courtney, and I've loved getting to know you through everything. So, all right, this is something that people don't really talk about, but I think people are always really interested, and it's hard for spectators really to learn about the horses. I know McCall is really special. I know that he is, and if I could use air quotes, he's very special. And everyone calls him the little legend. Tell us about McCall. I know you spend the most time with him. So tell us about him.
When you first meet him, he's very unassuming. He's very much that like puppy dog. Oh, I just want treats and pets. Like little kids can come pet me. Before I got here, I know Mary Beth's kids they'd always come to the barn and they'd want to love on McCall because he's so quiet when you first meet him. But when you get him into like a big atmosphere, he lights up and he gets so excited. He doesn't always know how to contain himself. So you have to watch it because sometimes if you're grazing out during a show and you're near cross country, you have to be careful because he'll get so excited he'll want to rear and he'll want to run because he's really excited to go run cross country. So you just like he loves his job so much that you just have
Like hard to
to,
contain him.
yeah, he wants to go and do and be perfect. And one of his quirks is he always wants to be perfect. Everything that Mary Beth asks of him to do, he wants to do it, even if he doesn't know how to, which sometimes gets in the way because he'll decide, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this, and he'll get so amped up, so you have to like back off and take the pressure off, and then just sort of like restart over. But once he gets it, he wants to do it correctly, and he's the biggest love bug you'll ever meet.
Aw, I love that because I think sometimes we forget that these superstar celebrity athlete horses, they're just horses and
Hmm.
they want to be loved and they have these great personalities. So his full name is Imperial Magic, correct?
Hmm. Yep.
What breed is he and how old is he?
Oh man. He's got some Anglo-Arab in him. He's some sort of warm blood.
Cross,
He's
yeah.
11 years old, and he just did his first 5 star. He did his first 4 star when he was 8. And then Bess broke her neck, and they were taking their time with him, which I think is good
That's a whole
because
nother podcast, right? Mary Bess's broken neck. Yeah.
yeah, but Bess is really taking her time with him because they, like I said, they did his first 4 star when he was 8. But since they took their time, he's really matured both mentally and physically. And where he is now, we think he's really ready to step into being that 5 star horse.
Yeah, well, it takes a long time for warm bloods, especially. Just little side note, McCall, they call him McCall because that was when they were looking for horses. Mark and Mary Bess were at a bar in Ireland, I think, or the UK, and the bar's name was McCall when they decided on the, yeah, I love that. I love the history of, just finding out barn names and things like that. I think that's really cool. So I know because I've seen how hard you work, and I think all of us know how hard working students work and how time consuming the job is. And I also know that you have your own horses and you train and compete alongside of helping Mary Beth, her clients, taking care of McCall. So tell us what a typical day is like at the barn.
So normally we get up at 7 and we start feeding, and then Bess normally rides McCall first. So I'll get him out, groom him, throw the beamer on him, do his stretches, and then I'll start walking him for 30 minutes while Bess drops her kids off at school. And then she'll get to the barn about 8:30, and she'll either flat or jump or gallop McCall. So we always like to start with him first so he doesn't get ridden in the heat of the day, and Bess can have her best do her best ride on him when she's got the clearest mind in the morning. And then so after we do McCall, then it'll either be lessons and then riding in between the lessons, or we'll go ahead and tack and ride horses and switch out with Mary Bess. And that normally goes, I say we normally ride until about 2 or 3, and then we'll go and finally eat lunch somewhere. Bess always makes sure we eat lunch because
That's good.
we're always
Need to
pretty
eat.
hungry by the time we're done riding. And then we'll get back to the barn and we'll clean tack, clean the feed room, rinse out the wash rack, tidy up the tack room, just make sure everything's presentable by the time we leave so we can start fresh the next day. And we normally end like sometime between 5 and 6.
Well, and just to clarify, and I don't know if we did, but this is a 3-day eventing barn. And so when we talk about a 5-star horse, this is a 3-day event. So there's a lot going on, dressage, jumping, cross country, all in the same barn, all in the same training program. And like I said, I evented with Mary Beth. I've boarded horses and training there, and I know she runs a very tight ship. And things are always spotless, and horses are meticulously taken care of. Tack is always clean, and that's a lot on working students. It's a lot to keep up with. So you have a lot on your plate, we know.
It's a lot, but Bess always makes it fun. Like I never dread coming into work in the morning. I'm always excited. And like at the end of the day, me and the other working student, we switch off doing night check. And every time I do night check, I just like I'll be driving around, hanging the horses, and I'm just like I'm so happy to be here. it's just, I'm so ready for what's going to come next.
Oh, that's awesome. Like you are literally living the dream. Then it is such
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful farm and so many incredible horses. And Mary Beth does have an energy that is kind of hard to describe. Like she's so infectious, her happiness and the way that she looks at things. And she appreciates that in her employees as well. She likes for
Yeah.
everyone to have a positive outlook and it is. It's an amazing experience to be there. So I know part of your job, on a day-to-day basis is to make sure that McCall is ready at any time because he has to stay sound. And we all know as horse owners, anything can happen. Horses are horses, but you have to I mean, I know this because I've seen it in person, but just making sure even if there's a tiny little scratch or a rub or something that he may have done in the paddock, I know that that's on you because I mean he is a team horse. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's a lot of pressure to make sure that he's sound and ready. So that's part
Yeah.
of your day too, right?
Yeah. We're always looking at him in the morning, in the evening, after we're done riding, like, is he good? Does he have anything on him?
Yes,
It's
just
it's all
bubble
in.
wrapping, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so let's talk about the road to Kentucky Five Star. I was really fortunate to be there this year to see Mary Beth run in her first five star with McCall. And I've listened to some podcasts. I know the road for the rider. I know it's a very tough road mentally, physically, all the things. But I want to talk about like behind the scenes and the road to Kentucky from your perspective because you are the one that has to make sure that Mary Beth is where she needs to be and that the horse is ready and all of those things leading up to it. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, leading up to Kentucky, like nobody wanted to say we were going to Kentucky. It was always like it's plan A, but there's always plan B because we were so worried that something might happen, and we never wanted to get our hopes up. So we never were just like it's plan A, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But like that's what we're aiming for. So leading up to Kentucky, it was always like, is he sound? Is he fit? Does he have any cuts? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? Is he on the right feed? Does he need more feed? Does he need less feed? Just like all the things to make sure that he is truly like feeling 100% by the time we got to the event. So it was I felt very stressed just because like I wanted to make sure that he was feeling 100%. There were just there were just so many questions like, are we actually going to make it there this year? Because right before Bess broke her neck, that's what she was aiming for. So there were just always so many questions about whether or not we were actually going to get there. And it was very stressful.
Well, there's just so much that you can control. There's so
Mhm.
much that's out of your control. And McCall doesn't know, he doesn't know that he
No.
needs to take extra special care of himself. And, we've seen a lot of riders, including Mary Bess's dreams, be derailed from an injury or, an injury for herself or one of the horses. And
Mhm.
it takes riders a long time and most of the time, a lot of horses to get to this spot. So yeah, I can imagine. I love though that, and I didn't know that you didn't talk about it as just plan A or plan B, like
Mhm. Like
getting on the trailer, plan A.
yeah, her Mark, her husband would always be like, "Oh, Kentucky's in 2 weeks," and we're always like, "We're not talking about it. It could happen, but we're not talking about it." And it was just like it was extra nerve-wracking because I'd never groomed the 5 star level before, and Bess had never ridden at it, and McCall hadn't been there. So not only were we trying to prepare for it, but we didn't like truly know what to expect from it because we'd never done it. So like just getting all the extra tips from all the other people. Like McCall goes outside during the day so we can watch him and make sure he doesn't do anything stupid because he's a horse and they do that. So one of the things that I didn't know was that you can dye their tails so like they're truly black and shiny. So I didn't know that, and Courtney Carson actually told me that. So I did that 2 days before we left for Kentucky. And that was very nerve-wracking because I didn't want to get any black dye anywhere else on him because he's bay.
What if his tail falls off? Like, what if it's like,
Yeah, like if I miss a spot, like I don't want him to have a black streak on his butt. Like it was just so that was nerve-wracking because of course doing it 2 days before the show, like you can't fix it. But just like all the tips from other people that we told us, like getting him fit, like don't overdo it,
no
but
underdo
you have.
it.
So it's just getting him to where he felt like he could accomplish Kentucky without putting too much stress on him was a lot.
Yeah.
Because because he is quirky, and when he does feel the pressure, he gets a little stressed. So it's like we had to make sure he was ready and then ease off and make him feel like he could accomplish anything going into it.
Yeah, it's like he needs his own sports psychologist,
Yeah.
along with all of this. All right, so plan A is in place and you're getting on the trailer, you're going. So
Hmm.
tell us about what that was like. Like, okay, so you've hauled from Georgia to Kentucky, you're about to pull in, and so this is happening and like
Uh-huh.
all the nerves and all the excitement. So just walk us through like what happens as a competitor, like you supporting the competitor, but what happens? You're there, and then what happens?
So like all the all the all the emotions really didn't hit until we got McCall off the trailer in Kentucky. Like, we're here, we really made it. Like now the truly stressful part starts. Like he's got to stay sound during all three phases and he's got to look his best and like you want to represent Bess and him to the best of your ability. 'Cause you don't want him to you want him to look like he feels, which is sort of what I thought. And
Love that.
I was feeling so much stress because I wanted them to do good, but I also felt like Mary Beth was already stressed enough that I couldn't like show her I was stressed. So I just sort of put on like a brave face, like I was confident. But before they went into the ring to dressage, I was like, McCall, please be good. You can do this. You know how to do this. And it was always a relief when she finished a phase and she was happy because then I was like, okay, I did
You
my
did it.
job. He
Yeah.
looked great. Bess was happy. We can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Uh,
And he did. He was such a good boy in the dressage arena. And then as she
mhm.
was leaving and everyone starts clapping, and then of course he bolts and does his thing. But he did. He really handled himself really well.
He did. And I always love at the end, like he always knows where the camera is. Like you go back and you look at the pictures and like she halts and salutes and he just like he finds the camera and his ears are forward. And normally like pictures I've seen of Mary Beth and McCall in the past, like McCall's ears are always forward, but Bess always has like a really like a good concentration face. But Kentucky was the first time I've seen pictures of her where she's smiling.
Yeah.
And like she was so happy to be there and she was so happy with him because he couldn't have been any better that weekend.
Yeah, it really was an amazing experience. Okay,
Hmm.
so you get there, you unload them, you guys are unpacking, getting the stall ready, and I can imagine, I mean, I know just the energy as a spectator, it's hard to explain being at Kentucky during, and it's 4-star, 5-star, and the 5-star jumping. Like it's a lot,
Hmm.
there's a lot going on. And the energy is palpable. Like you can feel it just being a spectator. I can't imagine being part of the team and being behind
Yeah.
the scenes. So you're back there in the barns where nobody else can go. And what's it like back there?
It's it's almost like when you're back with just McCall, it's almost peaceful because you can just sit with him or like I would always take him out to graze him in the morning. I'd feed him, I'd beam ram, I'd do stretches, and I'd take him out to graze for like 2, 3 hours and just like watch the sunrise. And the sunrise in
Oh,
Kentucky is always magical, but like being there with him at the 5-star just made it super extra special. But like in those mornings, it was like you could feel the stress from what was coming for the day, but it was just so peaceful because you knew that like all your hard work was starting to pay off.
That's
So,
got to be an amazing feeling. I mean, I can
hmm
just feel it, like what you're saying, that calm. And the sunrise, I've seen it in the pictures, that mist coming over that beautiful grass. And yeah, it
yeah,
must be an amazing feeling.
it's just, and especially to be there with him. Like on cross country morning, I was out grazing him before they started because he couldn't be out there when they started running because he would, like I said, he would start to act up because he would just get so excited. And I actually found my first four-leaf clover with him, which made it extra special. And then Mary Beth put it in her penny when she ran cross country.
Oh, that's so cool. I
So
didn't
it
know
just,
that. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it felt extra special because like I'd always looked for four-leaf clovers before, but I happened to look down and find one on the morning of cross country while I was grazing him. It was just, that was a really special feeling.
Yes. And that's, I mean,
Hmm
I can hear that in your voice, like the feeling of we're here. This is happening.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like his personal everything, attendant, like security guard, like protector, everything.
Yeah.
Keep make sure that he doesn't do any, because we know horses can hurt themselves in their stalls. Like it just,
hmm
yeah. So what would that you had to be so hyper vigilant of making sure that he's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When if I wasn't sleeping or eating, I was probably with McCall.
Yeah. So I mean, I can imagine, like, I think we all feel like our horses are our friends. I think that must be a next level for you with McCall though, because
Hmm
you are responsible for
Yeah.
his care. And Mary Beth, that's a big deal for her to trust you with that because she has so much on her plate. And I know that's a big responsibility.
Yeah, and I always tell her I'm so thankful that she allowed me to be part of her journey with him because he's just such a special horse.
Oh, that's really cool. So when you talk about the pressure, I think we've highlighted it some, but because you're a five-star groom, and that word, like I know everybody that's listening to this podcast, it's so much more than a grooming a horse. Like a groom has to make sure that everything is literally perfect. And even down to the bridle fitting perfectly and making sure that all the
Hmm
components, like, we've seen riders lose their reins on cross country. We've seen girths break. And
Yeah.
so tell me about the pressures of what, being at that level, not just for you, but people that, because every horse has that caregiver, that caretaker.
hmm
What kind of pressures are on y'all?
I feel like we're expected to know the horses almost better than the riders do. Like everything, like if something feels a little bit off, or like we're expected to know, like we're literally expected to know the horses inside and out.
Yeah.
And I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make sure that everything is perfect, that like they're where they need to be on time, that they look their best, that we're representing our horses and our riders to the best of our ability. So like Bess has always asked me like, what time should I be on? What time should I ride? And I'm like, I think you should ride at this time. So that way I can do this with McCall, or like make sure he gets his graze in the morning, or so I can be back at the barn to graze him in the evening or take him for a walk. Because we all want to represent the horses we care for and our riders at 100%. And
Yeah.
so I think we almost put more pressure on ourselves than the riders do. And like she always makes me feel like I can do anything. So it gives me the confidence that I need to groom him and like just present him in a way that he should be presented in, that is just representing him to his best
Yeah.
of his ability.
Yeah. As this five-star horse. And
Hmm
when you said that, it brought tears to my eyes because having competed, having trained with Mary Beth for as long as I did, she has such a natural, I don't even know if the word is talent, but she instills so much confidence in her riders that you do feel like you, when you go out there at any level, because all of the levels are, for any of us at different levels, it's the stress is stress, right?
Hmm.
So, but she does make you feel like you can do anything. And that kind of confidence that you build in her program, it carries over into all different parts of our lives. She definitely has a special talent for that, which not all writers do. Not all writers can teach and have an amazing program like she does. So it's really cool. I
Hmm.
hadn't thought about that with you, I mean, as one of
Yeah.
the students, of course, but yeah, that's really cool. I love that. Are you
Hmm.
friends with other grooms? Like, do you guys have your own, because do you have kind of your own group that you share experiences with or can complain or, like,
I do have a few. Mary Beth is friends with Elisa Wallace, and so I know her groom pretty well. And luckily, we were stabled right next to them. So if I had any questions or anything, I could always talk to Elisa's groom, Megan, because she'd groomed at the 5-star level before. So that was nice. And Courtney Carson, who doesn't groom anymore, but or I guess she doesn't groom professionally anymore. She does freelance groom. I'd talk to her about things if I had any questions or anything. And like I've met a few other grooms through other people at other shows. And it's just like it's always nice to see them because you'll just be like out grazing and they'll be out grazing and then you just start talking and you just sort of forget about the time because it's so relaxing and you can just like you can bounce ideas off each
yeah.
other. You're just like, what are you doing in the morning after cross country? I was thinking of doing the same thing. So it's nice to have those people that you can talk to and like exchange like thoughts to keep the horses.
At their best, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you brought that up because I found in the eventing world, I just I don't want to speak for other disciplines. I was in another discipline before I started eventing, but the camaraderie is unbelievable. The people in the eventing world that will share any best practices or anything that will possibly help you. And I love that you brought that up, because I find that in the eventing world that people genuinely will do anything they can to help one another. And,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a hugely competitive sport, but I find it on the competitive side, it's a friendly competition. Everybody's rooting for each other. But truly, and I love that you say that the grooms are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so and this can really be anything, but I'd love it to be about the 5-star. But if it's about any other shows, that's fine too. What's your biggest challenge?
Oh, I feel like my biggest challenge is keeping my nerves in check so Bess doesn't have to deal with me when she's already dealing with her nerves. Because like I could the whole week, Kentucky's always been a dream for Bess. And like since I've been working for her, she's always talked about one day going and competing at the 5-star in Kentucky. And like once we finally got there and it finally felt real, like you could just feel all of her nerves. She was just like, she wanted to do it so badly. And so, like, just trying to keep my nerves in check so she didn't have to deal with me as well as her own nerves is probably the biggest challenge because I was so nervous because I wanted her to do good. I wanted her to make it through every phase and I wanted her to be like I wanted it to be the best show possible for her that I was getting more stressed than I probably should have.
Well, I think that's good. You've got your fellow grooms to talk about that with because you're right.
Hmm.
Like she, I mean, the mental game for that level of a rider is a really big deal. And
Hmm.
you're right. Like I think that's very respectful and mature of you to recognize that you've got to stay steady so that that doesn't add another thing to her plate.
Hmm.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about what you do?
That's hard because I love like I love everything about it. My favorite part, there's probably two. It's probably just getting those quiet moments with McCall because he's such a special horse. So anytime that I get to just have those extra moments, whether it be just sitting with him while he ices or taking him out for a graze, like those, they're just so peaceful. And it's like you just you feel so happy in those moments. And then probably my second favorite part is when Bess gets off after a ride and she is happy. Like you can see it in her face, and she's so elated with how it went, and McCall was so good, and like she's truly happy with whatever the outcome was. She's happy. She's happy. So those are
Um,
probably my two biggest favorite
I love
parts.
that. I love that. That says so much about you, though. Not all the glamour and all the things, but just the things that really mean the most. All right, before we wrap this up, I do want to just talk a little bit about your overseas adventure because Mary Beth rode for the Nations Cup
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago. And that was so exciting. And just as a side note, she had a very successful Kentucky 5-star run. She ended up in 14th, I think, overall.
17th. It was
17th?
17th. Mm-hmm. And then I
Okay. And
think
then,
she was seventh in the national championships. And then she was the highest placed rookie and the highest placed sole owner rider.
yes. Yeah. I love that. So, very successful run.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, the overseas riding for the Nations Cup, I know being chosen for a United States team was just an amazing accomplishment. And wearing that red coat just it's so cool. It was so cool for me to see that going on. But what was that like? Like flying overseas, shipping McCall overseas. What was that? How was that?
I think that's the one time I was more stressful than the 5-star in Kentucky because
If that's
I had
possible.
never yeah, if that's possible. I had never been to I'd never been overseas in the first place. So going overseas to a horse show and competing, that was like already like mind blowing. And then having to ship McCall overseas, we were just like, I don't know how he's going to react. Like, is it going to stress him out too much where he's just he isn't quite there mentally, or is he just going to not care? Because I mean, he came from Europe. So we had all these questions about like what it was going to do for him. And then since we were representing the team, it's like not only do you have to represent your horse and your rider, but then it's like you have to represent your teammates. You want to put a good foot forward for your teammates and also your country because there's so many other countries that are there at the event. And like so you want to have your horses turned out good. You want them feeling their best. You want them taken care of pristinely. So it's just that's the one time I think I've been more nervous than Kentucky because it was just there was so much pressure to represent everybody to the best of my ability that it was so cool, but it was so stressful. And like you could tell that Mary Beth was stressed because it was her first time representing the US. And then you had all the like factors of just wearing USA on your coat and wearing
Yeah.
it on your saddle pad. And so the pressure to do good for your team and your country is a lot, but it was so enjoyable because all of our teammates they may have been our competitors, but they were also our teammates. And so
Mhm.
like I had such a great time with all the grooms and all the other riders. They were just everybody was so nice. And even though we had never gone overseas before, like some of the other people had, and so it was so awesome.
I bet. I mean, just hearing you say that, just thinking about that. You said at Kentucky, you're representing yourself. You have to take care of Mary Bess on the horse. But when you are actually representing the country, like that just must have been such an amazing experience. And obviously, you guys did a really good job because the team placed in
They were
what is
second.
second, so silver medal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
not only did you overcome all of those challenges, I mean, obviously everybody were a rock star. So Courtney, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing a behind the scenes look at what it takes to manage a 5-star horse and kind of a 5-star rider. So really grateful to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for listening to the Main Street Minute, and we will see you next time.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please let us know. Email support@mainstreetmarket.com And join us again next time for another episode of the Main Street Minute with India Wilkinson right here on the Equus Radio Network.